Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you're doing well. Staying safe, taking care of those closest to you and yours. I'm doing okay. I've had a bit of a cough and sniffles this week. I don't believe that it is COVID. I feel like COVID would knock me a bit more on my ass as it did in the past, but slowly but surely I'm coming around on this. The one thing I want to tell you guys about before we get into our interview here, which is a great episode. Cody Ritchie, drummer for the Philadelphia pop punk band Goalkeeper, is returning to the show just after their newest single, Car Wreck, was released, and in advance of their upcoming full-length debut album being released on October 28th, I believe. It is called I Wish I Met You Sooner, and it is spectacular. Everything I've heard from it so far is amazing. I have gotten a chance to hear the whole record, and friends, if you love pop punk, this album is going to blow your mind. I genuinely loved this record, and I'm so excited to talk to Cody about it and to share it with you. And also, in the similar vein of new music, I recently released my solo acoustic EP that is called the Deaf of Sincerity, and it's a collection of songs that I've had around for a while in different incarnations that I've co-written with different people, and I've gotten everybody's okay to release it like this. And I recorded these songs at the beginning of the lockdown in March, leading into March, April, summer of 2020. And this was kind of like one of my early ways that I was staying sane during the pandemic, in addition to doing the podcast. So I'm really happy with the way it came out, and I hope some people give it a listen. It is available everywhere you get your music. I'll have a link for it in the description. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes. You can buy it on iTunes if anyone remembers doing that. I did a lot of that back in the day before I finally got on embraced streaming, and I'm really excited that it is out, and I look forward to promoting it more and sharing it, and maybe doing like a solo gig somewhere down the line. So thank you guys again so much for being here, and if you enjoyed this, make sure you check out Goalkeeper's debut full length I Wish I Met You Sooner, which will be out October 28th. And I appreciate all of you for being here. They're also currently doing a vinyl pre-order and a t-shirt pre-order over on their website, which I want to make sure I get right for you, because I still need to order my shirt. If you go to goalkeeper.bigcartel.com, it'll come up. So thanks again so much for being here, and let's talk to Cody from Goalkeeper. Since I've seen you.
Calling. Yeah. I guess it was July, right?
Yeah, I think that the last show we did was July, and then before that there was, I think, what was it? Was it November or December when you were with
with What Makes Sense, right?
Yeah, with What Makes Sense.
That was actually, I think, back in like April, March.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
March. Yeah, because we're right before House and Home tour. Yeah, March, and then July. Oh, jeez. And now here we are in October.
I know time is an abstract concept. It means nothing and everything all at once.
Yes, you're right about that.
But I love the fact that now that because I interviewed all of you guys a couple years ago as a fan of the band, and now I've gotten to do shows with you guys, and it feels very exciting to me personally.
Good. Love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I would love to talk about right off the top here, because the new single just came out. I'll let you know, I've heard the whole record, so I won't spoil anything for the full release. But Car Wreck is holy shit, dude. These new songs are so good. They're so good.
I really do appreciate that. Yeah, no, we definitely went in mind with a different kind of preparedness for this record. This is the first time we actually demoed out every song and then was able to send it so somebody can listen to it without it being like, just some iPhone recording of the practice space. So like
Right.
it was awesome to be able to have those demos that we could send so they could hear ideas and we could listen to them ourselves and we can hear ideas. And we just wanted to keep pushing the limit. And not to get too far into detail already, but for drumming, Nick, when he was producing the record, he is firstly a drummer. And that's the first time we've had that when we've been writing. So this is the first time I had somebody else on the other side of the board say, like, yo, that fill is too much. Or like, you have no idea what you're doing here. That sounds like shit. So I
Uh-huh.
finally had that person to combat me and challenge me. So it felt really good. I feel like the drumming on this record, from my perspective, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I bet that's like it kind of almost having that pushback because like when you're first starting out and you're doing everything DIY, you're your own making all your own decisions. It's
Mm-hmm.
a different vibe to when you have someone, especially like an experienced drummer from an experienced band and an experienced producer saying like, well, it should be like this or that could be better. I imagine that's got to like when it comes to like growth as a player, I bet that's got to be uh, really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Nick offered me a lot of new ideas that I just not thought about with recording. And also, like, it's great. Like I said, we had the demos, but like I listen to the demos so much and I get stuck into that. Like, I would think, you know, um, oh, this is the way the song has already sounded. We can't grow from this. But like, that's why it's good to have somebody else push you and challenge you just a little bit to like see what other ends of the song you can touch on. You know what I mean?
No, totally, because they might have hear something that you wouldn't have heard or thought of because they have a completely different musical education and upbringing
Mm-hmm.
from yours. Absolutely. Um, is there can you think of any other like particular moments on the new record where the the drums changed wildly from where they started?
Yes. I have a great example for you.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and link the title of it. It's called Half In, Half Out.
Mm-hmm.
And on that song, we actually had Casey from the Wonder Years help write it. We did a co-writing session with him.
Uh-huh.
So we had brought him what we thought was a song that was probably like 75% done. We were super happy with it. You've heard the song now, but like
Yeah.
before, it was almost like an MGK kind of punk, like pop punk. Like the chorus had
Really?
like a lot of 32, 16th beat or rather, and it was just like very, very pushing the whole time. Like the entire time was go, 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 go. And like we thought it was so cool and like we had never done anything like that before. And then we brought it to Casey and we showed it to him and he was like, yeah, we should change up. We should try something different that chord. Like I hear like a bam, 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 bam. And we were like, what are you talking about? And I remember being the drummer, I was the hardest on it. Like, no, gotta keep those 16th notes. Like, gotta keep that in there. That's the vibe. And then I finally just like cracked myself over the head with a stone and realized like Casey's has an awesome idea here. So like the song now sounds endemic, I think something different on the record. If we had done something with like the 16th notes, we already have another song like that. So like,
Mm-hmm.
we would have been offering two of the same thing. So now that I see it in its whole, love the way it came out. I love that I was challenged as the drummer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like it's and that entire song now has this. I think you're saying like just beautiful like cinematic quality. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember Mark telling me like that he was like working on like everything that is played on the song is like reinforcing all of the different musical ideas of the song, like just like layering on top of it,
Mm-hmm.
and like trimming out like nothing unnecessary.
Yeah, that is a huge part of our process with our buddy Kevin Mahoney. He's been our producer and friend for super long time. And one of the first things that we did learn from him is like make sure everything you're doing has a purpose and that you're cutting all the fat off. Sooner. The intro was much longer. I think right now it goes for 3 bars, and the original one for four,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm saying that correctly in musical terms. But I remember when we brought it in, Kevin had said to us, like, yo, it would be super cool if we surprise everybody and stopped in that early part rather than go through the whole thing because it's predictable. Kevin, cut the fat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Oh yeah, that's one of my biggest things in like my more recent batches of songwriting that I've been doing is just how how much is necessary of each part. Can this be shorter? Can we get to the get to the exciting part?
Yeah.
I remember even like going back to like my very like beginnings of doing like bands and stuff. I think I had kind of uh like I would just go like really heavy on the intros because I don't know if I was like afraid like oh I got to start singing soon or something like that but there really is something to that. It's interesting because I feel like and I can think of a ton of bands where their earlier stuff is much more like intricate and complex and maybe like
Hmm.
technically harder to play and then as you their career progresses like their newer stuff gets a lot more like simple, like maybe simpler, but more, I think more refined, like
Hmm.
that showing like exercising that restraint and that like economy in songwriting, I think is an underappreciated sign of musical maturity for sure.
It's definitely needed in some spots. Like, not even thinking about for like the longevity of it. Think about somebody. Well, I won't say Travis Barker because he's like a nut and he's a completely different animal, and he can still play all those insane fills. But I know if I'm playing at the age 50 or age 60, get up there. Some of the shit that I do now is going to be a little harder, and So I
Mm-hmm.
think with your growth of it, and that's just a side note to it. But I think what you're saying, especially growing in your musical maturity, you start to process songs differently. You
Mm-hmm.
look at them a little bit more purposefully, and like you can kill your darlings a little easier too.
Uh huh.
You understand these songs are like they're just songs. You can write another one.
Yeah, exactly. And you will write another one. Like you will never run out of ideas. I remember being very afraid of running out of ideas when I was younger, like maybe even like early 20s or so. It was like this could be the last
Hmm.
thing idea I ever have, and then what do I do? But then
I
you're
think that
just
was a huge fear for Mark Hoppus for a long time, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was like, um, unsure if he'd be able to write anything as good again. And I guess like when you're an artist and you've acclaimed that success, it can be hard to get back up there and like to do it again. But I think that's something as artists we all go through. It's an insecurity.
oh for sure. I just spent like a ton of time in I just got back from Paris, like going to like tons of art museums and dealing with like
Nice. Very
wild
cool.
yeah and like you see like you'll see like somebody's like some painters like entire like life play out in their work and like oh they were like really depressed during this time or oh they had like infiltrated the upper class in this era or they were really focused on like doing like reproductions during this time and you just see like that whole arc and I think
Yeah.
that's really and yeah so you see like the periods where they're dealing with like those insecurities and stuff.
Yeah. We have Spotify chronological order for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You just go through like the later stuff down to the earlier stuff. It's like oh the I just think of like when Bright Ugly does like a proper EP in a proper studio
Hmm.
like just the sheer like when people hear that and then go back and like oh okay so there was a jump one
There's that jump. I remember for Goalkeeper when we started out with Gut Feeling, and I remember the first demo we got back for Leftovers. That it sounded so big and fat. I remember like listening to it probably 4 or 5 times in a row as soon as I got it because I was like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever heard." And now like I listen to Leftovers versus Sooner or
uh-huh
Car Wreck, and I'm like, "Okay, all right, Cody, you were young, you know."
uh-huh I will say like the well Sooner is like an absolute banger as well like I think
Thank you.
my thought on it was I would I call it like your Menzingers kind of a song like and I
Yes.
mean that as a compliment
Yeah.
um
Oh, I take it as a compliment, sir.
Excellent, because that again, that chorus just has this sort of like huge, like there's just a lot of feeling in
Mhm.
that song. Like it makes me like miss somebody that I don't know, or like
Yeah,
miss the people that are like, it really like it really like takes me to a place like emotionally.
it's funny you say the Menzingers because for two reasons. One, we've always said our biggest influences as a band, the top three are Blink-182, The Wonder Years, Menzingers.
Uh-huh.
That's how you get Goalkeeper. You mix all those things up in a pot. That's how you get us.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, the best way I've heard Ryan describe the record so far, it's as if the Menzingers wrote Ocean Avenue,
I could see that. No, I could,
right? The
yes.
more you think about it, you're like, wait,
Yeah, no, I can
kind of sick.
100%. Yeah, I can 100% hear that. Especially with
Mm,
because like the whole first half is like these just like what I call classic like Goalkeeper like bangers. Like I can totally
yeah.
see next time you guys come through New York just like shouting the shit out of some of these choruses. Talk about
Hmm.
especially definitely that
You're
one.
on the nose there, buddy.
And then like in the second half of the record, the songs are all still very good, but this is, I feel like you guys are letting yourselves or taking the opportunity like kind of stretch a little bit. Like you, for example, outside of drumming, have other musical talents that I did not know that you had.
Me neither. Yeah, that's I suppose you're talking about Notice Me. Yeah,
Yes.
right. Yeah, that was that's an Easter egg that we like to call on the record because like so when it was coming down to tracks and picking them right, we had this other song that right now we'll just call it TFS, and we had Notice Me, right?
Yeah.
One is kind of like this stripped down, very emotional, kind of, sad acoustic song that would have been probably just best by putting a mic right in front of Ryan and letting him just like really preach his word into the mic.
Yeah.
So it would have had that style. And then the opposite to that is Notice Me, where it's this trap beat as Blink 182 song, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that Ryan wrote one day because he wrote all the instruments to it. So he wrote all the instruments to it, and he wrote it because he was high, and he was like, it was like the peak of MGK, and he was like, these songs are just like trap beats with Blink 182 riffs. I can do that, and he did. So he sent over to the group one time, and I was like, this is a banger. So when we went to the studio, we ended up showing it to him late in the recording process, and they're like, I can't believe you guys were hiding this whole time. This is it. This is like the cool thing about the record, and we were really surprised about it. I think it turned out super well. I
Mm-hmm.
wrote all the lyrics and the melody, which like very surprised that like the flow came right from me. So I'm
Uh-huh.
excited to see what the rest of the world thinks of the song. That's one of those things that's kind of like right here in the back of my mind at all times.
Uh-huh.
But I'm glad you like it.
Oh yeah, it was great. It kind of took me off guard, and I was like, "Oh, that's really good." And I was like trying to guess like who is that? Who did they bring in to do that? And then when Mark told me it was you, I was like, "Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's very
yeah.
good."
I always tell Mark that like we can just say it's the artist known as Mark, which is my stage name, but it's spelled Mark, and he's Marc.
Uh huh.
It's always like the running joke that we have going on.
Uh
But
huh.
maybe eventually we'll play it live. I don't know like how that's all gonna play out, but I think we have intention to play it live at least once.
Nice. Well, I would love to hear about how, because I, when it comes to like programmed drums and stuff, or I even thought about this the last time, friends, when you guys were touring with Friend Circle on Life in Slow Motion, and they have
Hmm.
that one part in Complicated that has that sort of like electronic drum beat. And I'm like, how do you do that live? Is it like a, do you have like a sampler? Is it a track?
Yeah, it's sampler pads, dude. It's that if you have a sampler pad, you can use a lot of people build tracks and then use laptops, and then that just goes through the speakers. Like, so
Mm,
that's probably the next step that we'd have to take, right? Just for some small things on the record. Like, there's a little bit of piano and there's some other things like that. That if we wanted to include live, we'd either A, have to bring someone who can play piano, um, or B, just use it as a backing track. So it's all just backing tracks, really.
yeah, I will say the use of piano on this record, talking about like your Wonder Years influences, um,
Hmm.
like, and I think we might have talked about this before, like, and I definitely know I asked Casey about this. One of my favorite things the Wonder Years have ever done. I have not had time to listen to their new record yet, but one of my favorite thing. It's really good.
Dude, we'll talk about that in a second. That's a whole spiel, dude. That takes a big part of my heart.
All right, good. But the thing that takes the big that one of the things of the Wonder Years is that destroyed me at first, but then rebuilt me, is I just want to sell out my funeral because the way they have this like really banger of a song and just like the line like they're just fucking excuses, and then when he starts like calling back other lyrics from the album,
Mm-hmm.
it almost feels like the big finale of like a musical.
100%.
Like,
Absolutely. Dude, I remember when I first listened to that record, from the first, from there to I Just Want to Sell My Funeral in high school. It was like either my junior year or senior year, and the Wonder Years are the biggest thing on the planet to me, and like nothing else could be cooler. And then they dropped that record, which is like monumental, and it is cinematic, and it does feel like once you get to that end and you hear those lines throughout the record that you just started to piece together in your heart, and then you hear them at the end all being called out, and like, and then he talks about a sunset, and he talks about like the way it just ends, and like it's visceral. It like the Wonder Years have this incredible ability to just gnaw at you emotionally in like a very good way,
mm-hmm.
with their drums, their guitars, the tone, and then of course Soupy's voice and lyrics, and just like the content. So like, dude, I could give you a whole love letter to the Wonder Years. I'm happy that people sometimes compare us to them. Like that's the biggest thing that I could take. Like that's a huge compliment for me. A huge, great band.
Oh, absolutely. And these piano elements and these like codas that get weaved in, especially
Mm-hmm.
with half in half outs, like again, like very much like very cinematic. Like I could
Yeah.
just see myself like
You want to know why this connection feels relevant? It's because
yeah.
when we decided to do um, the reimagined version of Black and Blue, the
Yeah.
person we wanted to go to was Nick from the Gradwell, because he did the Wonder Years when they had the Burst and Decay. So like
Uh-huh.
we knew that's the feeling we wanted to go for. So um, obviously pass that aside. Now here we are. We already did the record with Nick. Like you can see how like he played guitar or he played piano throughout all of it. So what you hear at the end of Half and Half Out, what you hear in Car Wreck, what you hear in small things throughout the whole record, that's Nick. Except for Notice Me, I do play the piano in that,
Uh-huh.
but Nick does everything else. He absolutely killed it. That take at the end of Half In Half Out, that was just him looking around. And we happened to record it. Like he went out there and just tried it. Like literally just blew it together. It's awesome. I really love the additional piano on the song, is because it just, I feel like that is a more visceral instrument. You know, once you start adding things like that, then you really start, oh, they're trying to add emotion to this. They're really trying to get to you and your
Mm-hmm.
heartstrings. You know.
I absolutely do. This is going to sound like an odd comparison to make, but I've grown to appreciate piano more in the last few years, mostly because of anime. I've been watching a lot of anime movies and TV shows that make
Mm-hmm.
really excellent use of like very delicate piano at like the quiet parts, and then you
Yeah.
hear someone doing like an internal monologue, and it the right combination of those things, and I'll start
Yeah.
crying. It's
Dude,
it's
it's so funny that's how like anime shows us exactly what emotions piano can pull out for that
mm,
kind of thing. I think that's awesome though. That's a really good inspiration spot.
mm-hmm. Oh,
Also, pop punk music really is just anime theme song, right? I think that's already been established.
yeah, I don't think it's too far off now that I think
No,
about it.
we're basically right there. Yeah, Sunshine is definitely an anime opener.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. You could absolutely Sunshine could be one. I think Talk About would be a great one. Uh,
Yep.
like for
Yeah,
like
it would.
yeah, so I would put Sunshine for like a slice of life, like in everybody's like in love with everybody else, but we don't know how to say it kind of show. And
Yeah.
Talk About would be like if we were like a superhero like fighting kind of team, or like we went
Mm,
around like having adventures in odd
yes.
places, or
We're
we're
tough.
yeah, or some kind of like long quest that takes like 900 episodes, like a One
Right, and
Piece or something.
it can only take like three. It wouldn't have to, but you know that's the reason why we love anime.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I'm glad you brought up the reimagined version of Black and Blue because that song was on my recent like road trip playlist.
Nice.
And the thing I love about it, and I would love to talk a little bit more, is I love acoustic songs that have drums and have like bass lines because and this is probably in it more to Nick as well, but like the the when that chorus comes in on that acoustic version, and especially if there's cello on it, I think as well.
It's strings. I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what it is, but Nick has a friend who he ended up just sending the files to, and he actually it's not MIDI, it's not fake or anything. The guy just went through, and his name is Nate. Nate went through and just really added a few layers of strings, and like just those few layers, dude, just like elevate the song so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And like having like that really like minimal intro where it's just Ryan and the guitar, and then it builds
Hmm.
into the big like building of the drum sound. Were you playing sticks on that, or because I imagine you had to play a little bit quieter than normal?
Yeah, I think I had like a bundle to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember writing that when we were going into it, that part where we turn around in the second chorus where the snare like finally comes in.
Uh huh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I remember writing that in particular. We got done, and Nick was like, "I think that's sick. Why did you think about doing that?" And I was like, "I don't know. We just needed to fill in there, or something like that. I forget what it was, but like, I remember he was even impressed on how like the whole thing was just coming together. That whole day that we spent just rewriting it was super cool because we had no intentions. When we got in there, we were like, "How do we want to do it?" We were like, "I don't know." So we just we just played the song, and then we started breaking it down acoustically, and then just the few key pieces here and there, and then like we had a reimagined version. And honestly, we just really vibe with Nick. He's a great producer, and like I think him and Goalkeeper are just on a very similar mindset about how to get songs done. It's
Mm-hmm.
great to hear his influences, and it's even funnier another connection. It's it just shows how small the music industry is. We have Kevin from Hit the Lights,
Yep.
who's been a long time producer, like I mentioned. He came in obviously for I'll go with for I Wish I Met You Sooner. Nick and Kevin played a show together at Hit the Lights and Man O and Transit way back. I think it was like an album release for Man O.
Wow.
And Hit the Lights happened to be on. So like they met each other like years ago. And then we figured that out in the studio, and they're like, "Oh wait, shit, we've been buddies for a while, huh?" The world is so small. How it works.
That's amazing. I love everything about that. Like you just think
Yeah.
like the damnedest things like that. Um, wow. Let me think. What else I want to ask? I had another thought on Black and Blue.
Be reimagined. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're talking about bringing that snare in, I'm curious about when it comes to the songwriting process, when it comes time to think of drum parts. I'm curious
Hmm.
how you kind of when you're like approaching the kid. I'm curious, like, do you think like, okay, I'm gonna do this kind. I'm gonna do a lot of snare for chorus. I'm gonna use a lot of like toms for bridge, because like I drums are the one thing I can't play. I can, but like as a guitarist or a bassist, I know like certain kind of chords or parts generally sound cool on different parts of the song. So when you're
Yeah.
approaching drums, are you like, okay, it needs this kind of a feel, so this will be more of like a snare section, or this will be more like a tom or floor tom or like
Yeah.
only
So
kick.
like my initial thought process in it is like the word I always use is appropriate. So like
Mm-hmm.
that's something I had to learn as a drummer growing and writing songs. Like you have to understand the song is number one. No one cares how good you are at drums. That has nothing to do with anything.
Yep.
Everybody is good at drums. They can all do fills. Everybody can do all those cool fancy flashy things. You got to think about what the emotion and like concept of the song really is. So for Black and Blue, it's a song that needed to build, right?
Yeah.
So we start very low, just guitar, Ryan, and then throughout the song, other instruments are introduced till you get to this very ending point where everything is like exploding and it feels like fireworks and it feels like you've reached this like culmination of things and emotions throughout the whole song. So in thinking about that, when you have your first chorus, you'll notice that it's just the bass. There's nothing else to the drums. It's just that, maybe a cymbal hit or something like that. But when you get to the second chorus and we have just a floor tom and the bass going, which that's not just, we've heightened it literally one level with the floor tom.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second half of the chorus, you bring, or the second part of it, you just bring that snare in because this is all just like a crescendo up. So in that second chorus, we've brought it from here, floor tom, add the snare, do a cool fill, and then we build into this bridge that's just like, it's this melting pot of all the feelings that we're trying to have in this song. And then by the time you get to the end of it, you feel that release. So like when writing drums, it's all about being appropriate. It's about knowing what the song is really trying to accomplish. And then like also it's about figuring out your own style, how you do it. That's how you develop your own style. Hopefully
Mm-hmm.
by now, I won't say by now. By the first record, people will say like when they hear a fill or they hear something like, "Oh yeah, that's a Cody Ritchie thing," you know,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds like Cody Ritchie played those drums. Like that's what I want. That's 100% how you build style. If I hear a song that Mike Kennedy plays drums on, I'll probably notice it. I'm pretty attuned to the Wonder Years. I could tell when it's
Mm-hmm.
that kind of style of drums. Everybody builds their own style, So I think answering it that the question is just appropriateness. You got to be good at that.
Makes total sense. Like, yeah, like don't get caught up on trying to show off. Just like again,
Yeah,
people because people are attracted to songs. Like that's what's really
yeah.
touches
They want to
them.
relate. You
Yeah.
can't relate to a drum part. Oh, well, maybe you can, or maybe you can relate to a certain instrument. But like the thing you're going to relate to the most is the lyrics, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure there's a front and center, and everything you do should complement it, and that's how you get a good song.
For sure, and especially like the way I love the way like you play drums, because there's a sort of like kind of like because the drums like set the groove. That's like gonna be how you kind of like move and react to the song. And I will say like the drum sounds that that you guys got on this new record are phenomenal. Like there's just sort of like there's a like a heft to them, and especially like
Bigness.
yeah, and then like when you're getting like on a Sooner or a car wreck, when you have those kind of like driving like fast verses, and you have that like dunk, like that rhythmic snare hitting. That's what I always kind of subconsciously I think gravitate towards.
Hmm.
It's fucking phenomenal, man.
I'm glad did you say about those snares in particular because the first thing we knocked out in the studio was the drums. And so the
Mm-hmm.
first day, I think I knocked out like three songs on drums, just like really barreled through them, and we were gonna knock out the rest a little later or the next day or throughout the week. But I got back the next day in the studio, and I walked in, and Nick came up to me. He just put his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, "Listen, buddy, those snares not any good." Hey, Dad, it's my dad. Say hi to my dad.
Hello.
um, but anyways, so Nick, yeah, he told me, I was like, we got to do the songs again, just because the snare wasn't right. So
Mm-hmm.
we switched up different snares, and like he told me he sat with us all night. He's like, Cody's hate me. I got to tell him we got to redo all this, but like that's why we do it. We redo it so when you listen to it and somebody hears it for the first time, they're like, "Oh, that snare is crisp. I like that."
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's a little detail. So from my bottom of my heart, thank you for appreciating that snare.
Absolutely, man. Like I was just really like blown away by the whole record. Like I really um cannot wait to see like people's reaction to it. Like I feel like I have this like great little like, oh guys, you'd have no idea. Um
It's funny.
let me ask let me I want to ask you a little bit more about like writing and recording, but just real quick. Um what was whose idea was the artwork? I love the artwork that you put out. This kind of like
I think it was definitely Ryan, and if I'm correct, I think he follows multiple artists on Instagram, but one of them he does follow is named Shaka, and I think this was, if I'm correct, I think this is the right way we got this. He saw the post. It looked similar. I think maybe just had the dancers, maybe, and like the boardwalk,
mm-hmm.
maybe. But we reached out to him. We said we think this is a dope design. We think this really flows what we're trying to do with the record, and then we just kind of like customized it from there. So
Nice.
we got super. That's how we also found Life in Slow Motion and Bad Times Don't Last. Ryan just follows people on Instagram that really dope art, and he
Mhm.
sends it to us, and he's like, "You think this works?" And we're like, "Yeah, that's sick." You know. But in specific, I think that I Wish I Met You Sooner. The artwork is phenomenal. It's gonna look great on a vinyl. Absolutely, that's the thing I'm most excited for is to physically hold that thing. It's gonna look beautiful. Um,
Oh, dude.
but
Yeah.
yeah, yes. Oh, I'm excited. This is the first time we're doing vinyl, and everybody's cool with waiting 9 to 10 months because that's just what you do for vinyl these days. But
Yeah.
it's very exciting as a band to finally be able to have that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean to like hold a big record and like maybe even like put
Hmm.
it on the turntable. That's like the thing
Yeah,
you think about like when you're just like a fan of music growing up, like to have that moment. That is so cool. And the thing I love most about the way the artwork kind of works with the theme, it's to me it's very like 50s air. It reminds me kind of like the
yeah,
50s like comic book pop art kind of
yeah.
style, which I
Hmm.
think for the album, an album called "I Wish I Met You Sooner" and the song "Sooner," like these sort of like there's a sort of like again wistful romanticism I think to a lot of the songs on this record. Like you guys are not a
Hmm.
like a girls suck fuck you kind of pop punk
Yeah,
band.
absolutely not. I'm actually really glad you brought this point up because, like, so the reason why the record is called "I Wish I Met You Sooner" is because when we started writing this whole thing, the first two songs that we wrote were "Car Wreck" and "Sooner," and that kind of like the duality of the two, and especially "Sooner," it definitely had a bigger cause on it. Just felt like we were writing this summertime love record, right? Like that's what it is. It's this
Mm-hmm.
just like summertime love. Story that these couple goes through. And it's kind of how we built all the songs. Like we kind of said to ourselves, like we had this song about like car wreck, which is a couple that is absolutely a train wreck, but they stay together for even just that one feeling. And I'm sure we've all had relationships like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then sooner is just this. It's so strange. It's almost like a happy melancholy song because it's "I wish I met you sooner." Like
Mm-hmm.
the song is about like, what if we had met at a different time? You know, and so I thought we had this interesting, really cool concept that people just hadn't touched on, and like, so we talked about it more, and then just like, um, as we wrote these other songs and the album really came to grow, saying "I wish I met you sooner" kind of felt like it was like this whole thing for the whole record. And
Mm-hmm.
like what I do when we're naming things, I try and put that title on top of like all the songs. Does it fit? Does it make sense to all of them?
Yeah.
And I think it does. If you reflect in something like "Notice Me," I wish I met you sooner. The song is really about just being like taken away, take your breath taken away by somebody you just meet by happenstance. But
Mm-hmm.
like ask yourself the question, what if I met you sooner? Or if
Yeah.
you're in Half and Half Out, the song is about being metaphorically half in and half out the door. And one of the questions you pose to yourself is like, what if I met you sooner? We could have done this differently. I feel like it applies to the entire record. I think, and Slash, you mentioned this about the Wonder Years, and then I just want to sell my funeral. I feel like what we did with this record is I feel like we built this journey the fan can take. Like obviously there's
Uh-huh.
a small amount of direction as to what's going on in the songs, but like I really feel if you listen from track 1 to track 10, by the end of the record, you feel like you've gotten something out of it. Like you have this sigh of relief when you listen when you're done. Like you feel like you just went through some sort of journey. And I think
Yeah.
that's what we were trying to go for. You know what I mean? So it's good.
Yeah, I think you absolutely succeeded because I remember like when the last song finished played it, it was almost like in my head I was like looking back on like I had just like come from somewhere even though I was just in
Mm.
my apartment and like I think you absolutely succeeded on that front. So that
I love that. Thank you, man. I really do appreciate the kind words, and the fact that you can feel something like that too means like we're doing a good job over here.
you absolutely are. Like and there's just like like it takes everything that I loved about Life in Slow Motion, and then just like makes it, and then just like everything I love about your band, like the big guitars, the big choruses, like it's just
Mm.
the the sincerity of the words. Like it just
Mm,
builds on all these things.
yeah. Well, I mean, the words are very important to me, being half like the lyricist. Me and Ryan basically do about 50-50.
Hmm.
Um, and like the lyrics are very, very important. There are some days in the studio where we're just like banging our heads against the wall, trying to get the exact right like word, like in particular, just like one, or maybe just a phrase, because like the way I think about it, man, it's like you put something out, it's going to be out there forever. Like you have
Hmm.
to give as much thought as you can into this process about lyrics. You know,
Yeah.
it's a huge thing that it's a huge way people relate to your stuff. So like,
Hmm.
you better be damn sure with what you're saying when you put it out there. You know,
I
so
do. Yeah.
if we didn't take that time, you know, I can imagine if we just put out some lyrics that like kind of sound catchy and Ryan's voice sounds good, people would like the song, sure, but like the deeper you can go in and a be vulnerable and then b connect with people, the more they feel that the more they're going to want to spend time with your band and like have a commitment to you guys as well. So lyrics are very, very important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, I agree because I've got this one song that I've had the music done for a ton of time, but I've done like maybe 5 or 6 versions of the lyrics because I just haven't quite gotten it there yet. But yeah, you don't want to end up in a situation where you're like embarrassed to sing something like if or like you are or
Yes.
again you're ashamed or like I think of because I think Buddy from Census Fail has said that he's not stoked on some of the early Census Fail
No,
lyrics
really. I
from.
think the same thing is with Paramore, right? Haley Williams doesn't want to sing Misery Business, but I think they're singing it again now. So,
Yeah, I think so. My thought when that with that because I think there's the lyric "You're just a whore, nothing more," and I think they didn't. She wasn't too proud of that anymore. Um,
mhm.
and this is maybe too much like that episode of The Simpsons where Krusty the Clown and the Red Hot Chili Peppers had a debate. But why don't you could? I just thought, well, why don't you change it? Why don't you just say you're just a bore, you're nothing more, or something like that?
Right. Yeah, you know what? I think they did what they felt was right, for sure. For whatever reason, they're playing it again. In between all that, I think MGK played it. So, like, I think if I were Paramore and then
Hmm.
MGK started playing, I was like, okay, well, we should probably start playing that again so people don't think that's just, you know,
Right.
it was a banger, regardless of
Uh
the
huh.
lyrics or your feelings of it. It's certified schmack fresh, you know?
Oh yeah, like I remember loving that album when it came out, and I didn't realize until like relatively recently that Paramore are like this like god tier band for the
Yes.
generation that came. I'm gonna say after me because I'm a little bit older, but I had no idea that Paramore were as universally beloved as they are. But I was stoked
Yeah.
to hear
Dude,
it.
they're insanely huge. Like, Paramore fans, stands. I've actually seen them once live. It was in like a huge stadium. Like they've got it, dude. They're
Hmm.
they're just probably bigger than Fall Out Boy, probably bigger than Panic at the Disco. If not, like they're all in
Hmm.
that same, echelon where like we will never ever 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 talk to them probably because they're
Hmm.
that far in the pop punk echelon. But like yeah, they're huge. They got pops. I'm not too sure how I feel about the new song, but I think I have to give it a few listens.
Yeah, I haven't heard it yet. I still have to check that out again with the.
It reminds me of like Talking Heads and
Hmm.
like that realm of music. Get
Hmm.
ready.
Interesting. That's really interesting. I
I
might
know, I know. I've just put a lot of thoughts into your head.
I could be into that. Speaking of newer bands, like I went and saw My Chemical Romance and Thursday a couple weeks ago, and
Sick.
one of their openers was a band called the Lemon Twigs, and
Hmm,
they're like a power pop Americana, almost like a classic rock band.
really?
Yeah, like if you heard them, you would think they would probably open for like I don't know maybe like Brian Fallon solo
Really?
or at like a folk or like a folk festival
Huh.
because it's very like great they're very catchy songs but y- you'd think about that going on before Thursday and understanding in a car crash and it doesn't
Yeah,
immediately make
right.
sense.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We're so down for mixed genre shows.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I mean, hey, when you're My Chemical Romance, you can basically have you your own reign, pick whoever you want. I would probably just throw a dart at a board, just let a random
Yeah.
person open up for me.
Yeah, I would just start like, who are all of my favorite bands? I'll start with
Yeah.
them. I'll just ask them. Um, so I remember the last time we talked. I think Life in Slow Motion had maybe just come out or was just about to come out. From
Mm.
the release of Life in Slow Motion amidst the pandemic, when did the writing? When did you guys seriously start thinking about the full length?
Oh, dude, like almost immediately. We had tons of plans. Obviously, it's just like everybody did. We're nothing special.
Mm-hmm.
So when shit went down in March, um, I think it was probably like maybe May. We decided like, yeah, let's just start writing. If we can't go on tour, what else are we gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe a little after that. I can't remember, but it was not too far into the pandemic, and I'm glad we had that time to write. And
Mm-hmm.
it's only us three in a practice space that nobody goes in, so like we did feel pretty comfortable during all of that mess, hanging out together and like having the time to write these songs. So like I really don't know where we would have found the time to do all the demoing and writing and like pre-pro to have such a well put together record if we didn't have all that time. So like
Mm-hmm.
those two weird years
Yeah.
ended up for the best, you know.
Yeah, silver lining. Like you kind of got to make the best out of
That's what you have to. You either laugh
that
or cry.
situation. Oh yeah, yeah. I think about that phrase all the time. That's like, especially like in comedy and comedy circles. Like, oh well, I can really
Yeah.
let this wear me down, or I can figure out a way to make it funny.
Yeah, yeah, dude. That's what tears down people. Tell you that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. So I mean, between that, I think we made the best of the pandemic. That we could have.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a record out of it, which is great. And obviously tour plans are kicking up now. Like we haven't announced yet, but I think this week, those are probably out after. We're announcing a tour this week.
Nice.
But basically we're playing Fest this year, which is awesome. Love that we're playing it. We played it last year.
Uh huh.
Super, super cool. Happy to go back to Florida on Halloween. It's cool.
Uh
Happy to
huh.
be there. It's gonna be a fun ride. And then we're heading out towards like Texas and then up towards like Chicago, I think, and then home.
Oh,
So
nice.
I,
Who are you
yeah.
playing with in Chicago?
It's not confirmed just yet, and I don't want to feel like an idiot if I say it. So
Yeah,
like we're working a few things, but
not a
if
problem.
if if that doesn't work out, it would be with Gold Steps. We're doing half the tour with Gold Steps.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
I know
cool band.
them.
I love those guys.
Yeah, I
They're
love
actually
the
super
song.
fun. They had some like weird rivalry and early in our stages bands because we both went to King Sound Studios. Um, and I think something had just gotten mixed up in the wires for like we thought that they didn't like us, and then they ended up thinking we didn't like them. And then throughout all this time, we ended up playing a show together finally on that last tour. And we were talking, and we're like, "No, we think you guys are sick." And we're like, "We think you guys are sick. What is this deal? Why have we not toured together yet?" And then we automatically made tour plans. They're sick. Love those guys.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that song they did with Nick from Hit the Lights. I thought that was an absolute banger.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Another hit the lights, dude.
Yeah. I
They got him, man.
yeah, I love that band so much. Um
They rip.
yeah, I was really sad to hear that Kyle passed.
Yeah, I remember I immediately reached out to Nick, or yeah, as soon as I heard, I gave Nick a call to see what was going on. But I mean, he was busy with Joy Wave, and
Hmm.
I think he did make Kyle's funeral, which very very happy he did. That's I couldn't imagine losing Mark Orion. I mean, like I know if I don't even know if I ever do a band without Mark Orion.
Hmm.
So like lose one of them, lose one of your own. It's a hard thing to go through. So I'm glad he has his family and he's got the band to be there for him. So
Absolutely. It's important to you gotta keep your your people close. For
100%, dude. Make
for
those
sure.
circles small sometimes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I absolutely do. Just gotta circle the wagons.
There
Sometimes.
you go.
Um, absolutely. Well, that sounds super sick. I'm so good. Well, I know you guys are gonna crush Fast, but I'm super glad to hear you're getting out to Chicago too, because of the bands I've talked to doing the show. It feels like I've talked to a ton of people from Pennsylvania, Philly, Jersey area, and then the other section is Chicago.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're getting out there. Last time we were out there, we played Chicago twice so far. Once, we did it with House and Home back in April, and we played with, I want to say, oh man, I was just talking to them today. Good looks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's it. Okay. Um, and I can't think who else we played with on that show. And then the next show we played with a band called Good Hangs, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they just put out a new song called Outlaws, which is pretty fucking sick. They're a good band.
Okay.
Um, I love Chicago. For some reason, I just have like this like naturally attuned love for the city. I don't even know why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've only been there once, but I really enjoyed just the overall vibe and my time there.
Yeah, it
Was
feels good. It feels like Philly. I don't know.
Yeah. There's a certain level of there's a lack of pretension. I'll say. I think
It's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
with Philly and Chicago, like there's tons of great creative people, but there's not the kind of and I say this as someone who loves New York City, but there's definitely a sort of a current of elitism sometimes here. Uh,
Yeah, sure.
L.A. I think could probably have this well, but yeah, there's a certain level of
Yeah.
like everybody's just doing their thing, and we're just kind of like a certain like nose to the grindstone. There's a certain kind of
Yeah.
like a working class populism, I think, that I love about punk rock, that
hmm
that I pick up when I'm in Chicago for sure.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Oh no, definitely not. Let me also ask you this, just a more of a practical touring consideration. Have you
Yeah.
ever had to? Has Goalkeeper had to fly for gigs?
Only one, technically, I guess. So when we signed to management, he wanted to meet, so we flew out to LA
Mm-hmm.
to meet him and play a show. So that was the first show we played back post COVID, if you want to call it that. But that was the first show we played was at the Mint in LA. We flew out there on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
We played Thursday, and then we flew back home on Friday. Like those 72 hours were the wildest ride. It was awesome being out there. Love the
Uh-huh.
West Coast.
Yeah.
LA's a lot, and if you only got 3 days, LA is a lot.
Right.
We tried seeing in as much as we could, but like from I don't even want to say jet lag, but like just from getting off the plane and then just trying to figure things out, and then like you have to stop everywhere and you have to see all these things, and you
Mm-hmm.
also have to play a show and then not be nervous for that.
Totally.
So, which actually ended up being a really good show. Met a lot of friends there. We had somebody who was at our LA show fly out and they saw us in Milwaukee one time, which is strange, but like so happened. It was sick. So we've only done that once so far. If
Oh, that's
anybody wants to fly us anywhere else, Goalkeeper will fly. You just have to pay.
oh no, exactly. Like I could totally see. I see you guys like being like I think um No Pressure just announced like a Japanese tour. I could see you guys
Mm,
totally killing a Japanese tour,
I would absolutely love that.
Or
I
when
think that would be
Alistair
sick.
tours Japan again. Oh my
Yeah,
god. Um
yeah.
so when
Goalkeeper and Alistair.
oh that I think that would kick so much ass. Like two of my favorite bands, same bill. Amazing. Tim, or if you're listening, or Kyle, because it really want to get, or Scott, because we really want to get Scott on the show. Do you know Scott's from Alistair's other band, Mono Eyes?
Mono Eyes. No, no, I've not heard them.
That they are very good. That's his band in Japan. That is like ex Alistair and ex Ellegarden, who Alistair and Ellegarden used to tour all the time. Um, they're very good. They've got three full lengths. Their first two are definitely more like classic pop punk, and
hmm
their third one is maybe a little bit more rock tinged, but it's very good
Okay.
stuff. It's on Spotify.
Okay. Mono Eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'll shoot it to you over
Yeah, send me a link of that. That
over
sounds
DM.
sick. I'd be into that.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
actually just saw Alistair play at four chord.
Oh, you went to Four Court? How was that?
I did. Four chord was awesome. Very, very cool. We obviously played the Pittsburgh area, so it was nice seeing a few goalkeeper shirts out there. That was sick. It was very cool. Had a few people asking us, "Hey, you guys are playing?" I'm like, "Nah, we're just here to hang out and drink beer." Um, that first night was all like legacy bands, so like really, really cool to see them. Second day was much more pop punk, and some of the friends that we knew, like I can't remember if Don't Panic did the first day or the second day, but love seeing Don't Panic. Those are good buddies of ours.
Hmm. I like
Atlantic
them.
Wasteland did an awesome job. And then Shreemore opened up the first set or the second day, I think. Not open. They played early. Anyway, Shreemore is awesome. Casey used to do photos for us all the time. Trey, the singer, actually modeled some of our shirts forever ago for merch, which is super funny. Now he's amazing. Such a sick rock star. They were
Awesome.
awesome. They played a six set. I was really surprised by Games We Play. They're a new act on Fuel by Ramen.
Hmm.
You heard of them?
No, I don't
Yeah,
think I
they're
have.
sick. Oh yeah, no, it's called Games We Play. Definitely give them a look. I think the guy's name is Emin, and he has a band behind him, but goes by Games We Play. And it's just catchy pop punk, man. Like, they have a song called "I Hope You're Happy," and you should check that one out. That one definitely has like major pop punk vibes. Makes you want to like, scream, into the nothing about like your ex, that kind of stuff. It's good, good stuff.
Awesome.
The best moment was seeing Nick from Man Overboard. He's playing bass now for the story so far.
Uh huh.
So obviously we had the connection with him, and he was like, "Bros, you're gonna be at four chord. Gotta see me. Gotta take pictures of me on stage, okay?" That was great to see him. The whole day was awesome. Jimmy World, dude, they came out. They opened up with Futures, and when they came in with that riff, something about their sound and tone, dude. I swear to God, they were just one like from being 4 years strong. They were so heavy. It was awesome. Love Jimmy World.
Oh yeah,
So four chord was cool.
that's amazing. I couldn't make it this year, but I definitely want to try to make it next year because I had a blast chatting
Mm.
with Rishi on on the show.
Oh yeah,
That's
Rishi's the man. He's a
that
funny dude.
that sounds so sick. What
Hmm.
I think I was going to ask you originally is, how do you fly with a drum kit?
You don't. Nope. I brought my cymbals and my snare and my kick pedal.
Uh huh.
I remember I put my kick pedal in like my carry on, and then I tried make no, I made my snare my carry on, which only was like only acceptable once. They didn't put it as a carry on my fly back, which is weird. So yeah, you just try and bring minimally as little as possible.
Uh huh.
Like the big things were just my cymbals and my snare, and then everything else was well, my kick pedal. Everything else is good, but no, I could not imagine what it's like. I have to ship a whole drum set. It's gonna be so expensive. I'm getting anxious just thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, the only I never thought I would like entertain like getting a short scale bass, but then I was like, if I ever got to fly, that's the only way I think
There you go.
I could do it. I've also seen they've seen these Tech 21 has these like basically like things called fly rigs that you can basically like uh basically plug in direct to a PA, and it's got like amp and effects and everything, so you don't even need an amp. But I feel for drummers having to bring all of that
Mm.
stuff.
Yeah, I was definitely tricked early on in life. And they're like, yeah, be a drummer. It's fun. There's so many cool things you can do. When in reality, you have to just like lug a million things around.
Well, I appreciate you just as a human being, the guy who who sets up the kit, and then everyone just swaps in their kick and cymbals and snare. I
Yes,
definitely know my drummer
dude, gotta
appreciated
be
that.
that guy. Yeah, I mean, if you're available to and you can, it makes the show go so much easier. And then
Mm-hmm.
like you look good for who you put the show on for, and like the sound guy likes you, and it just goes miles. So like, I mean, honestly, Mark and I got a super big deal on the set when we bought it together anyway. So like, if I'm just throwing the shelves up there, I'm happy. Please just don't break it. If you can, I'm gonna be impressed.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Um, it, and you mentioned a little bit that you're going to be touring soon. Mark said you guys are got some pretty heavy touring on the horizon for 2023 after
Oh
the
yes.
record comes out. What else can we what else can we like get excited about? I'm so excited for you guys. Uh, just
Thank you,
because
thank you.
it's
Yeah,
really cool to
so
see.
I would say like obviously show with the record. Um, we have a holiday show that we're planning. I'm pretty sure, or it's probably already planned. Probably already has the date and all that shit, and I just don't know it. We're keeping up with the holiday tradition. 2023 is that's just chock full of touring. Like I think we're trying to hit Canada. Should be great, but
Nice.
we want to attempt to hit the entire United States first, like West Coast, Midwest, Texas, everything in between. That's very, very important. So like obviously we got to take this record, everywhere we possibly can. So hit the spots that we're very familiar with, East Coast, Florida, that kind of stuff, and then like make our way as far west as we can with it. I'd love to do something international besides Canada, like go to the UK. That'd be sick. But like that's high dreaming. But like you got to keep your what do they say? Got to have high hopes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever Panic at the Disco said. As far as that goes, yeah, the next thing that's on the radar is the record.
That's awesome. And the record comes out October 28th.
One day after my birthday.
Excellent. Well,
It's
happy
a good birthday present to me.
absolutely, man. That's awesome. Well, I cannot wait to hear to I can't wait to for other people to hear the record because it is amazing. I think you guys have done amazing work, and just like as a fan of your band, even if we weren't best buds now, I would love this record, Cody.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
man. I've been meaning to ask, what is your favorite track off of it?
I think talk about that one stuck out to
Yeah.
me the first listen through. I was just like immediately like thrashing around to that.
Yes, love to hear that. There's like that sick part in the bridge where like Ryan and Mark are kind of both playing solos at the same time because Ryan's bass is doing something really groovy, and then
Mm.
Mark is obviously putting the solo on top of it. It's like I'm sitting back as drummer just watching this, like, yeah, this is sick. That's definitely a top contender for me. Talk About's really good.
Yeah, I love that one. I love Sooner. I love Half In Half Out. But talk about that was the one that like the first listen through, I was like, what the
Mm,
fuck is this? Because that again, that chorus is just that there's just something
catchy as hell, dude.
catchy as hell, man.
Rips.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that live because I make a habit of the past couple of times we've played together. I've made a habit of positioning myself in front of Ryan so I can shout all the words at him.
Yeah. Yes. That's awesome. I'm so glad you do that, dude. That makes you feel so good. Thank you. I mean, I really do appreciate the kind words and you even just taking the time to listen to the record and just even give half a damn. You know, like you have no necessary needs to, but you do. And like we're so grateful for like literally anybody who listens to Goalkeeper. So I mean, even you just having me on here again, you know, I'm glad that we've grown from just people who talk about music to who play shows to this community that we have now, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think is actually genuinely good about Goalkeepers. Like we go out and we make these connections with people and it's not like half-assed and it's not like disingenuine. Sure, we could be tired on tour sometimes, but like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like really we do put our heart and soul into every show we play, all the people we get to talk to, and the connections you make along the way are obviously the most important part. It's what gets us here.
Absolutely. That's the magic of it all is these connections, these deeper connections in a world that can seemingly seem very lonely at times.
Right about that.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you again for talking to me on on the show, and I can't wait to see you again next time you guys are in New York. So thank you again for
Yes,
doing the show, Cody.
absolutely, dude. 100%. Super happy to be on this, man. You rule. I appreciate you having me.
Cody Ritchie of Goalkeeper, everybody. I love that dude. I love when they come through New York, and I love getting to share the stage with those guys. A pleasure talking to Cody as always, and I'm super excited for everybody to hear Goalkeeper's new full-length record. Hopefully after that conversation you're excited for it too. Called I Wish I Met You Sooner, which will be out on Lost Music Collective October 28th. So you can pre-order your vinyl now at goalkeeper.com. Get your I Wish I Met You Sooner t-shirt. And then also for everyone else, Goalkeeper are going to be hitting the road later in October with an excellent band called Gold Steps as the opener kicks off October 26th in Orlando, Florida as part of Fest. And then they'll be through Gainesville, for Fest, Tallahassee, Houston, San Antonio, Brownsville, Texas, Arlington, Texas, St. Louis, Toledo, Cleveland. A lot of great opportunities to catch Goalkeeper in the month coming into November. So make sure you check them out if they're coming to your area, and make sure you get I Wish I Met You Sooner once it is released as well. And if you enjoyed this podcast and think you know a friend who would find it interesting as well, if you are into pop punk and comedian deep conversation, you can send them to awesomedisaster.com. That has links to everywhere you can get the show, has links to all of my social media, as well as our Patreon, patreon.com/awesomedisaster, and our merch store. You can find everything at awesomedisaster.com. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, one thing you could do really quick to help out the show would be to leave a 5-star review and a review, a 5-star rating and a review. That helps boost podcasts on Apple Music. And then you can follow us on Spotify and Stitcher as well. So thank you all again so much for being here. I'm going to try to keep shaking this cough, and I am going to see the Gaslight Anthem tonight in New Jersey on their reunion tour. I'm very excited about that. So thank you all again so much for being here, and I will see you next time between Awesome and Disaster. Stay safe, wear a mask, get vaxxed, get boosted again, and stop out fascism. Take care, everybody.